I've lived in a small suburb in Philadelphia called Haddonfield, New Jersey my whole entire life. My mom grew up here, and her mom grew up here as well, and hopefully generations to come will grow up here. My dad, on the other hand, grew up 7.5 miles down the road in Camden, New Jersey, until the age of 11. His grandparents, Italian immigrants, owned a grocery store on 4th Street. Camden, New Jersey was once a place to live on the East Coast. It was often referred to as a city of invincibility. It had a thriving economy, blue collar mentality, plenty of jobs, and tons of culture. It was an up and coming industrial powerhouse. Then, the late 1960s and early 1970s, things began to change. Fast forward to today. Camden has lost the name the City of Invincibility and adopted a new name, the most dangerous city in America. It is riddled with violence, and almost every citizen lives below the poverty line. Seen in this chart, it is clear how much higher the crime rates in Camden are versus the national average. Listed here are only a few headlines of news reported in Camden, New Jersey only in the past week. See anything similar in each title? The two words that always reappear are either heroin or opioids. The opioid epidemic not only almost single-handedly crippled Camden, New Jersey, but has negatively affected our whole country. It has led to thousands of overdoses from the East Coast all the way to the West, as seen in the above graph. www.drugabuse.gov describes opioids as a class of drugs that include the illegal drug heroin, synthetic opioids such as fentanyl, and pain relievers available legally by prescription such as oxycodone, hydrocodone, codeine, morphine, and many others. What many people do not understand is that these heroin addictions generally stem from prescription painkiller addictions. Kevin Williamson reported in his article, some 94% of heroin users told researchers that they got into heroin because the pills they started on became too expensive or too difficult to find, whereas heroin is cheap and plentiful. Up until the 1990s, prescription painkillers were saved for only extreme pain from conditions such as cancer or extreme surgeries. Then, once Purdue Pharma introduced oxycodone, an all-around painkiller, prescriptions began to be handed out just like candy, to the point where doctors who were reluctant to prescribe this drug were being called opiophobic. That caused the pharmaceutical industry to explode, and more companies began coming out with these drugs, which led to more and more doctors prescribing opioids for simple surgeries such as wisdom teeth removal or even for a broken bone. This has directly affected drug addiction in America. It has led to the number of overdoses to triple from 1999 to 2007. The harsh reality of this epidemic is that without regulation from the government onto these multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical companies and doctors across the nation, this epidemic will continue to grow. There has been multiple occurrences where major pharmaceutical companies have been accused, investigated, and sued due to false advertisement, missing shipments of pills, and countless other things. And every time these companies get off scot-free. Since the American government thrives off capitalism and they tend to make money off these companies, they seem reluctant to make a change. Yet change is imperative. If no change is made, the death toll will continue to rise. Just recently, more deaths of Americans have been attributed to opioid overdose than the Vietnam War. Some predict that approximately 175 people die from overdose a day in America. Former Mississippi Attorney General Mike Moore said, The daily death toll from the overdose is like a 737 crashing and killing all the passengers on board. If plane crashes like that happened a few days in a row, we'd shut down the skies until we'd figure out the problem. Without further regulation and laws from the government, more lives will be lost due to this horrendous epidemic. More people will turn to crime and violence for their drugs. More cities will become desperate and tired, just like Camden, New Jersey. This epidemic is slowly destroying America, and the government refuses to help us help ourselves. Until the government intervenes, communities must band together and be supportive of their neighbors and have full understanding of the cause, effect of this terrible epidemic.